Hello and welcome to NARC Live on Wednesday the 24th of September. Can you not hear me? No?
I can't hear us.
Oh really? I can hear you. I can hear me.
I can't hear me. Okay.
Okay.
I can't hear anything.
I'll carry on. I hope you can hear me. Maybe if one of you can put a note on Facebook or BATC if you can hear us. Just be reassuring for us. Problem with your headphones?
Oh yeah, problem with my headphones. That's what happens when you take them out.
Right, we'll forget that. It's a good job this isn't live, is it?
No, it's not.
You did use those for something the other day. So, sorry about that. Should we begin again?
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to NARC Live on Wednesday the 24th of September 2025. Coming to you live from Norfolk on the east coast of England, honest, with Tammy M0TC.
Hello.
Who can now hear us.
You can now hear us.
And David G7URP. On tonight's show, Roger VK2ZRH takes us through what the Magic Band is like in Australia. We look forward to the crazy zany fox hunt this Sunday. And we find out what on earth this is. This will be an interesting one. Okay. We've had lots and lots of entries actually for this, but if you want to enter, you can pop it onto Facebook or BATC and we'll read it out as well. But first, I'm sorry that I have to start with some very sad news, which some of you who came to the club last Wednesday may know. Chris Howard, G4ILR, is now silent key. Chris had been a member of Norfolk Amateur Radio Club for a very long time, long before I joined the club, and was once part of running it as a secretary of the club. As well as being active in the club and on the airwaves, Chris was also a master of clocks and was a precision clockmaker and repairer. Sadly, Chris had been unwell with dementia for some time, and he and his wife Judy moved away from Norfolk down to Dunstable several years ago to be closer to the family. I'll let you all know on the website and newsletter once we have details of Chris's funeral. Chris Howard, G4ILR, now very sadly silent key. On to some activities in and around the club. The first one is actually not strictly speaking a club activity, but we thought you'd like to know about it anyway, because to keep 145, in other words 2 meters, alive, a wonderful initiative started a few years ago with 145 Alive. You can find out lots more on their Facebook page. But that's this Saturday, the 27th of September, with a 12 o'clock start. But all the details of how to participate are on their Facebook page. But basically, even if you can't get on Facebook or whatever, you should find that 2 meters, 145, is a lot more alive this Saturday, thanks to this initiative. So good luck with that. Now, one of our own club activities, the Crazy Zany Sunday Fox Hunt, is this Sunday, the 28th of September. Now, we start in the usual way from Thorpe Recreation Ground, which is where we usually start from now. That starts at 10 o'clock, so we suggest people can arrive from around 9:30. It's worth noting as well that often there's Sunday morning football there, so it's worth getting there early to make sure you've got a spot to park. The hunt starts at 10 o'clock when the Fox starts transmitting, and there's a minimum of 2 people per team. There's a few other rules as well. Most of you know these. I know that mostly it's going to be regulars going. If you do want information, if you've never done it and you're going to use this as the first opportunity, then do drop me an email and I'll let you know. The details are on our website and on the newsletter that's gone out a couple of days ago. It's a real fun event, and this one is called Zany and Crazy because the Foxes, who is the destruction crew comprising Mark, Sonny and Paul, this is their final act of 2025, and it's called Crazy because they can kind of not break the rules, but they can make their own rules, and things can be a little bit different to normal. So be prepared for something different is what I'd say on Sunday, and we hope to see lots of people there at the Thorpe Recreation Ground with a start at 10 o'clock. So details on our website. By the way, we also we end up going to somewhere for a Sunday lunch, a very traditional thing to do. And that will be about 12:30. The hunt itself will stop at midday. So if you would like to join us on that and you'd like me to reserve table or a place for lunch, please do drop me an email. Again, all these details are in a comprehensive newsletter article I wrote, and it went out a few days ago, and it's also on our website. Just basically let me know, though. I think by tomorrow night I've asked for, if you'd like us to reserve you a seat where we're going to have a meal, which I can't say where it is because it might give some clues about where we are. Next on that, back onto that list, and you can see that we're meeting actually again for the CNS, not next Wednesday. We normally have these alternate weeks, but we've got 2 online meetings, which I'll tell you about next week's online meeting later. But this is just to let you know that on Wednesday the 8th of October, in 2 weeks tonight, we have our tabletop sale. Always very popular events. This will start at 1900. Please don't arrive at the school or go in before that, because that's when we hire it. Although I will be going in just before to set out the tables and get everything ready. Excuse me, it was so popular last time that many people didn't have space to sell things, which of course isn't fair. This is open to all paid up members of NARC. So what I'm going to do is take the very long tables that are there, and I'm going to split them down and put sort of a piece of paper on each place, as it were. So if they're very, very long tables, we'll put 3 people on there. And the smaller tables will put 2, and then of course if there's enough space, then people can spread out later. But it's just to be fair to everybody, really, that you could do that. So entry from 1900, 7 o'clock, and that's Wednesday the 8th of October. Something to look forward to. I've had lots of people asking about that, so that will be good. We hope to have at least spaces for 26 people, if I've done my sums right on the tables, to sell. It's free for all club members. The next and final thing on there, again, not really a club event, but it's the Radio Society of Great Britain convention, and it's on Friday the 10th and Sunday the 12th of October. There's a huge variety of talks and workshops. It's a great opportunity to meet people, and there's been a few changes in the last few years. You don't have to stay in the hotel there, for example. You can just buy tickets to the event itself. And if you want to do that, you can buy it on the door. It's £41 for a ticket on Saturday to go through all the activities on Saturday. Includes free tea and coffee, by the way, as well. £37 on Sunday, or if for both days, it's only £51. So that's obviously a sort of a bargain, really, if you're going on both days, for both days. Now, those days, though, finish, I think it's the 5th of October is the last date to book in advance, and then it will cost you a little bit more on the day. You will be able to just walk in, but you'll pay a bit more for your day tickets. So if you want to book, if you know you're going, then do it then. The club also normally reserves a table at the dinner on the Saturday night. This year, Hans Summers is going to be giving the after-dinner speech in person. But it's a nice dinner that they have there. And if you want to reserve that, you will again need to book that by the 5th of October, which I think is a week on Sunday. So please make a note of that. If you want details and how to book, it's nothing to do with the club in terms of organising, although Tammy and I are very much part of it with recording various talks and things. But go to rsgb.org/convention, rsgb.org/convention. We need names, please, for the table. If you would like to join us on the dinner table on the Saturday night, Andy's organising that. Just to, you don't have to sit with everybody else from the club, but it's quite a nice way of meeting up on the Saturday evening. So please do let Andy know, or if you've not got his details, let me know, and we'll put you all together, and we'll make sure we reserve spaces on a table, or maybe 2 even. All right, that's the RSGB convention. Okay, now a bit of members news for you. Now, you may have seen some of these on the latest newsletter I sent out, but I thought I'd cover them anyway. Ben, M7FRS, is going aeronautical mobile again. Richard G0VCW shares us the news that Ben, M7FRS, is going aeronautical mobile on Saturday the 27th September, taking off from Beccles at 1300 local with John G0JDL as the pilot. So it's a really good opportunity to work someone aeronautical mobile. As you know, this has only been something we've been allowed to do in Britain with a UK licence for about 18 months now. So it's something to listen out for there as well. More details, I guess, maybe from possibly the Lowestoft and District Club Facebook page, because that's who he's a member of, that club. The route, by the way, will head from Beccles to Bury St Edmunds, down to Colchester, and then back over Saxmundham. But from a contact I made with him last time, and several others, it's amazing getting someone up there, how far you can go with very few watts, because there's absolutely nothing in between you. And finally, Sean, M6KSS, he wants some help. He wants to do his intermediate exam. He doesn't really want a traditional sort of course. He wants to do some self-study, but he likes someone to be able to sort of turn to as a mentor, and someone just to refer to, or an ELMA, as it used to be called. So if you can help with that, to help him prepare for his intermediate exam, you can either get in touch with him by email, the details again on our last newsletter and also on the website, or drop me an email and I'll put you both in touch with each other. It'd be really good if we can help Sean get into his intermediate. That's it for the club news and members news. Tammy, over to you for Little People.
Little People? Here's Little People this week. Have you ever wondered what happens to your verniers when you go to sleep?
Your verniers?
Yeah.
Do you mean your vernier calipers,
Yeah.
sort of thing? Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know this, by the way. You do this, don't you? Okay, let's
Here
have
we
a
go.
look.
This is what happens.
Wow. Is that really what happens?
Yep.
So they're kind of a pole vault, you mean?
Yeah.
Pole vault. Is that what the vernier calipers are used for?
Yeah.
That is ingenious. There's a little ruler down there and a couple of paper clips.
It's one of those cool rulers, that is.
That is very good, isn't it? Really, really good. Okay, miniature-calendar.com. This is a Japanese website that puts a new picture on every day, and Tammy picks one out for us. And that is good. With athletics just finished, that's very topical as well. Thank you, Tammy. So what have you been doing? Had a bit of news from you, but we always love to hear your news. We always share it with everybody. We'll be here again next Wednesday, as I mentioned earlier. So email us at radio@dcpmicro.com. Great to hear from you. Share your news, share your pictures, anything you like, really. And it'd be lovely to hear from you before 3 o'clock next Wednesday when we start preparing the show. Now, let's go look at 2 weeks ago when we last met here, and I asked you, what on earth is this? Now, we've had a lot of entries. It's one of those ones where I've had a lot over there. I should think I've got about 20 in front of me. And a lot of you think you know what it is, and maybe you do. But there's a bit of a twist for some of you. But anyway, without me saying any more, let me just look online. Is there anybody entered anything online? No, I don't think so. Any questions or anything, Tammy? I can't quite see. We've got a slight problem with the computer here, haven't we? And I can't see the questions. Oh, here we are.
No, there's none on there.
No, okay. All right, so here we go. Bob, G6PWS, says it's an extendable magnetic picker-upper thingamajig, especially good for finding and collecting drop screws and nuts from within your work area.
Steve, G3EVA, this week's item is a telescopic magnetic pick-up tool.
Nigel, G8IFF, W8IFF, the gubbins this week is a telescopic magnetic picker-upper for when you drop keys down the back of the fridge.
Do you often drop keys down the back of the fridge?
But if you did, maybe, if this is the right answer,
Maybe.
This is what you could use.
Martin, G6WNN, I think the current What on Earth is an extendable magnetic pickup tool. It is used for picking up items that may have been dropped in inaccessible locations, like the back of the fridge.
Easy for you to say. Roger, EI8KN, it's a telescopic probe with a magnetic tip for picking up ferrous items with a pocket clip. And he puts it there as PS, see you next month at Milton Keynes. So he's obviously going to the convention. Nice to see you there, Roger.
Roger, G8JWT, it's a telescopic magnet for picking up metal things from otherwise unreachable places.
Tony M0TDK says, I think the current What on Earth object is a magnet on a telescopic rod, and it's used for picking up metal objects like nuts and bolts you've just dropped into the depths of the engine bay. It works very well, right up to the moment that the section containing the magnet pulls out and also vanishes into the depths. So you get a slightly bigger magnet and go fishing for the magnet that fell off so that you can retrieve that vital and irreplaceable part that it's now attached to. And then he says, don't ask me how I know this. I think we can guess.
Yeah. We just had one come in on Facebook, actually. John20TWQ says, thinks it's a conductor's baton.
Oh, okay. Right. Well, he might be right. He might be right, because it may not be what everybody thinks. Over to you for Bob.
Bob G8STU, I reckon it could be the extending antenna with a clip. It's more likely an extending magnet for picking up metal objects from the floor of the shack where everything seems to end up.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Bob. Tom J8XQD says, the NARC Live puzzle item is a... We'll tell everybody what this is in a minute while we're pausing. Is a telescopic magnetic pickup tool.
David 2E0JGV, this is a telescopic pointer predecessor to the laser pointer. When folded, the pen type clip enables storage in your top pocket. Never used one, as always had surplus telescopic antenna spare.
Colin M0GMK says, this week's object is a telescopic magnetic wand for picking up escaped metal items like screws that leap off the workbench and hide in awkward to reach spaces. A voice of experience. Mike G8EY says this is a telescopic magnetic pickup tool, useful until what you've dropped is not iron or steel. Maybe you can hear my smile. I'll tell you what's happening in a minute, and that noise. Phil G4LPP, I'm pretty certain it's a telescopic pointer for use while giving lectures. It has a clip to sit like a pen in your pocket when not in use, before the days of laser printers. Brian M7SEY says it's a telescopic rod with a magnet at the end for retrieving nuts and bolts, etc. from hard-to-get places around, say, an engine in a vehicle. Not much use for stainless steel, though, he says. And finally, Mark M0MEA says it's a telescopic pointing stick used in meetings, etc.
What do you think it is, Steve?
Excuse me. I think it's a cold. It is.
Dun, dun, dun.
And it is. And the key bit there, and a couple of you didn't get it, it is magnetic. So although you're kind of all right that it's telescopic, and we should know that really, Andy M0NKR was put on there as telescopic pointer for teaching. You see, you only got half a point there, Andy, and several of others of you, because the bit at the end is not just the little knobbly bit at the end of the thing to stop you poking your eye out, but it is a magnet, and then you can use it for picking up stuff. So, well done to everybody anyway. Thank you for so many entries. It's been a while since we had quite so many. We thought we had one here, didn't we, Tammy? We tried to find it to show you, but we couldn't.
We have got one somewhere, but I don't know where it is.
Okay, and anyway, thank you for all your entries. We'll tell you about what we're pausing about in a moment. But anyway, let's have a look at the next object, because we're here in just 7 days' time. So you've got just under a week to tell us, what on earth is this? Or what is it for?
It's a thingy.
It's a thing, yeah. This is.
Don't give away any clues.
No, all right then. Can I say it's tricky?
No.
All right, I won't. Okay, you've got 6 and a bit days to let us know. Let us know by 3 o'clock, please, on the afternoon of NARC Live next Wednesday, and then we'll let you know what that is. We'll put it on Facebook as well, so you can have another look at it, and on the newsletter. So we're getting a few more entries from you, by the way, pictures and things like that, but we'd love to see some more if you can. Now, we ought to just explain to you what we were doing there, and why Tammy unclipped her mic, which you wouldn't have seen, and did something. Because the room that we do this from now is our studio, and if any of you do video or photography of any kind, you know you can't have mixed colours of white coming in. So we're artificial lighting in here, studio lighting, and we've blocked out the window to stop natural light. Not that there'd be much at this time of night now in the winter or in the autumn. Oh, mustn't say winter, because obviously it's dark. But we put a cardboard sort of piece that we made to fit in exactly in the window. But we suddenly started hearing noises when we started the show tonight, as well as your headphone-y things not working. And basically it was starting to move, and we figured that it might even come down on us. It's quite a large card thing. That's what it was all about.
You sit here in a piece of
cardboard.
And
we heard these creases sort of noises, so it was a bit, we're getting a bit worried in case it's going to land on top of the computers and stuff like that we've got underneath it. That's what it was about. I'm sure that sounded a lot less interesting than it felt like when I thought I'd tell you at the time.
It did.
Thanks, dear. Okay. So let's just have a quick look before we meet tonight's guest, because there's a very special reason we must go to him soon, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. This coming week at NARC. On Sunday at 7 o'clock, we've got the GB2RS news on GB3MB. Next Wednesday, as I mentioned, the 1st of October, we're back here for a double bill, really, of two NARC Lives together, because we've got Hans Summers, G0UPL. Hans Summers, yeah, don't worry, Tammy.
Yep.
Right, Hans Summers. That shop in Norwich does not sell what I thought it was going to sell. QRP rigs. He's the founder, of course, of QRP Labs, and he's coming to us live, ironically, from his home in Turkey, because a week later he'll be coming to Britain to give a after-dinner speech at the convention. But we've got him ourselves. We've got an exclusive. We're going to hear about his latest ideas and stuff. I know he's just added SSB to one of his very popular rigs. So we'll probably hear about that, and maybe we can tease out of him what else he's working on. That's all coming up next Wednesday. And then, of course, in 2 weeks' time, we've got that tabletop sale on the 8th of October. Meantime, please keep us in touch with your news and your views and your pictures and everything. And don't forget this card, which we're always happy to send to anybody who will be cheered by a card from our club. Just send details to radio@dcpmicro.com. Now I'm pleased to welcome our guest, who's been sitting very patiently. And amazingly, he's stayed awake, I think, because I can see his eyes. Because our guest tonight is Roger, VK2ZRH, and he's going to talk to us all about the Magic Band in Australia. Hello, Roger.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for sitting there patiently for the last 50 minutes or so. Because will you just tell everybody what time it is where you are in Australia right now?
It is 04:55.
So you got up well before 4 o'clock in the morning, didn't you? We had a quick technical check and things just before you came on. So it's incredible.
Yes, I got up at 03:44.
Well, you've been incredibly sporting, and it's very, very good of you to get up that time of day to give us a talk. We really, really do appreciate it, Roger. We're looking forward. I think for those of you, I think I've referred to it throughout as the Magic Band. And of course, we're talking about 6 meters. If you've only just recently joined the hobby, you may wonder what that is. But that's what another name for 6 meters is, the Magic Band. And tonight we're going to find out why it's called that, and also what that means in Australia. As always, if you're watching this live on Wednesday evening, then you can send us messages either to BATC or Facebook, and we will read those to Roger at the end before he goes back to bed and catches up with that sleep. But Roger, lovely of you to join us tonight, and over to you.
My pleasure. Coming to you from the Gold Coast, the famous Gold Coast in Queensland, near the border of New South Wales. My call sign would normally be VK4, but we don't have to change our prefix these days if we reside in another state. So 6 meters in Australia has long been used for some very interesting experiments, some of them accidental, and for a lot of citizen science. Now, I'm bringing to you the biggest contentious issue that existed, still exists in Australia with regard to 6 meter DX. You know, we can work New Zealand from here, and we can work Antarctica from here, and South America, and Hawaii, and the US, etc. There's a lot of places we can work. We have worked, amateurs here have worked 6 meters to the Channel Islands and to UK itself, Spain and France, etc. But 50 megs is VHF, of course. So you think, so the natural thought is, well, it can't go that far. And the problem is it does. And so there's a bit of a dichotomy there. So the particular issue I've made this presentation on is called Summer Short Path Propagation, SSSP, a term which was introduced back in the 1960s by a Japanese amateur. Let me move on to the front slide. So summer solstice short path propagation on 50 megs. Han Hagasa, JE1B and J, introduced this term with a very brave hypothesis. But first of all, why the hell am I talking to you about this, and why would I know anything about it? I'll give you a bit of background. Here we are, just as I got on the air at age 17, 18. I was in Victoria at the time, in Melbourne. I was a student. And I had been a shortwave listener on 6 meters and 2 meters. And this is me at my shack. You can see on the wall up at top left, my multimeter. Yes, a bunch of meters for different purposes. Never mind the big switch. And in front of me is a receiver, which I totally repurposed from a war surplus receiver, which were available for reasonable, I wouldn't say cheap prices, but I only had summer employment at the time, so when needs must, you spend what you can. The dial, some of you will recognise as from the R1155 receiver, but the receiver behind it is not one of those. Okay, up on the shelf above, there's various power supplies and homebrew 6 meter AM transmitter. There's a number of other things there which you can and can't see, which we'll gloss over. So, moving on. These days, I followed my interest in 6 meters, chasing DX every summer and during the winter as well. And over the years, I accumulated quite a few articles and technical papers on the subject. Over 1970-71, I lived and worked in Antarctica. And while I was there at Casey Station, which is south of Perth in Western Australia, on the coast of Antarctica. And there I was doing geophysical surveying. And I got to know the ionospheric physicist, who was British, a guy called Jerry Walter. And he taught me a lot about the ionosphere. And I talked to him about sporadic E because that was my favourite thing on 6 meters. We talked about other things as well. Never mind that. So, on return from Antarctica in the early 1970s, I got a job with the Ionospheric Prediction Service in Australia, now known as Space Weather Services. You can find them online. They still provide HF predictions and alerts, etc., for all sorts of services, still for transport, aircraft, and sort of maritime as well. They did do some research in which I got involved, trans-equatorial propagation, low latitude research, and of course the infrastructure the ionospheric sounders, the ionosondes. So I got to be able to read ionograms. But we're not going to go into that today. On the table there, you see stacked up a whole bunch of folders in which I've accumulated papers about sporadic E. I've since moved away from that location where that photo was taken, and in Sydney, VK2, to Queensland, of course, and all of those folders are on the shelf above my head here. So, SSSP was proposed by Han Nagasa JL1BMJ in CQ ham radio back in 2006. I learned about it shortly afterwards and tried to hunt down a copy. That took me a year or so. Now, his proposal was based on contacts between JA to USA and Europe during summer solstice period, that is high summer. So here's typical propagation paths that he outlined and in detail. And I've projected that onto azimuth equidistant projection. The point A, which you can see towards the bottom center, is Chiba, where he lives. And the paths that he detailed are the paths there you can see from A to C, A to B in the US, and D to E in Europe, Western Europe. Okay, they're long distances. You can see I've marked it out 7, 10,000, 12,000 kilometres. Now, from a North American perspective, North American amateurs have long discussed SSSP. What is it? Is it F2? Is it sporadic E? What is it? And of course, that discussion spread around the world very quickly in the early to mid 2000s, right through to the present day. Now, there you can see a station in central USA, Nebraska, I think. So from point A to the path A to D is, of course, to the to Asia and Japan, etc. And it crosses the geomagnetic pole, the polar cap, I should say. That blue ring denotes 60 degrees north geomagnetic. So that's very common for them, and of course for in the opposite direction. You can see 0 degrees, the Greenwich meridian. There is the heavy bar at the top right. So what about its general characteristics? Now, when you read through this, it reads very much like long haul propagation on the HF bands, but he introduced some special characteristics. Of course, the strict seasonality. So it occurred in the high summer months around the solstice, 21st, 22nd of June. In Australia, that's 21st, 22nd of December. There were some reports of what he called SSSP outside of that, but not very far. There is a diurnal factor to it. Stations at one end make contacts in the morning, local time, working stations at the other end of the path where it's late afternoon. Well, that's just a matter of the mechanics, or the geometrics, if you like. And the paths he said, were confined to the same hemisphere. And that did not include the southern hemisphere, as you can see from the explanation there. Paths up to 12,000 kilometres in length, the shortest one being to Alaska, KL7, 5,000 kilometres, while the European paths occasionally include the Middle East and North Africa. Further, path azimuths were on or close to the Great Circle path between stations, so it was fairly strict. There were no sort of non-Great Circle paths that he observed. And the openings may last for a short period or up to 6 hours. And the areas open to would appear to be spotty. In other words, in very narrowly confined specific places. Signal characteristics range from weak through to very strong with slow QSB and no noted distortion. That's an important point. He said the annual openings did not appear to be influenced by the solar cycle, and the phenomena was 50 megs only. Contactor opening is observed specifically on 50 megs, but not on higher or lower amateur bands. So, now, pardon me a moment. The Gosser advanced quite a brave hypothesis, which is in the best traditions of scientific inquiry and self-learning at the heart of amateur radio. So he drew a diagram of what the path was like, the propagation path was like in the vertical plane. And here is a reproduction of that from his article in CQ Ham Radio. Pardon me, my nose is giving me trouble today. So calling that up for ease of the mathematics, the arithmetic, 10,000 kilometre path starts at a point near the station A there, and then proceeds through what he named the PMSE region to a control point nearest the further station at E there. And you can substitute different numbers for shorter paths or longer paths, etc. But the same principle applies. So, noting that great circle paths of up to 10,000 kilometres pass over the high latitudes, like here I showed you earlier, wouldn't 4, 5 or 6 hop sporadic E account for it? And he says no. And he looked for atmospheric phenomena at high latitudes to support 50 megs propagation over the polar paths. So he discounted sporadic E. And he observed a correlation with PMSE, polar mesosphere summer echoes, that occur at 80 to 90 kilometres altitude, like this. And this comes from MST radars, mesosphere, stratosphere, troposphere radars. This one, this tracing is from one at Svalbard, the islands off Norway. And you see that this tracing is taken on the 7th of June and goes from afternoon to late evening. The strength of the echoes at the right there in the vertical plane. and the heights are on the left-hand side there. So PMSE are detected by these polar latitude atmospheric research radars, and they record echoes from the troposphere right through to the mesosphere, which is basically up to the D region. Now, this is a radar located still at Andines in Norway, and it's no small piece of kit. That circle is 90 metres in diameter. And these radars run megawatts on frequencies from 50 megs to 1 gig and use huge antenna arrays, which is what you see here. That's all individual 3-element Yagis pointing upwards. Now here's a view of an antenna, the Marcy array at Andines. This is the previous shot, up close, 3-element Yagis, all lined up as soldiers in a rank and all connected in a particular way. And the echoes arise from low-density aerosol layers of minute ice particles in the upper atmosphere at heights, as you can see from here, around 78 to 90 kilometres thereabouts. Now that's a lot of power to get a very weak signal in return. You can see the signal strength from the right-hand side there and the range on the left-hand side. And the bottom is the time of day. And so this runs for most of the day. So 53.5 meg radar at Andine, Norway, inside the Arctic Circle. That's the geographic Arctic Circle. It occurs between 80, 90 kilometres, peaking at 85 kilometres. So here's a diagram of its vertical incidence characteristics. And you note its relationship to noctilucent clouds, NLC, which are detected by laser ranging LiDARs. And it's all above that point where you see the dashed temperature curve, that's atmospheric temperature, and the dotted water vapor frost point. So PMSE starts at about that crossing point and peaks at 85 kilometres, while noctilucent clouds start just above it and peak at around 82, 83 kilometres, decline to nothing at about 84. Now PMSE and noctilucent clouds are related, obviously, from that diagram, because noctilucent clouds are ice clouds. Some of you may have seen things like this. Their occurrence ranges cross over with PMSE, but they peak at different altitudes, as the previous diagram illustrated. Now, seasonal occurrence of PMSE in both polar regions have similar characteristics. I compiled these plots from research papers on PMSE for the Andines location, the Norway location, and from Davis in Antarctica. And it's slightly different in Davis as opposed to Andines, but the difference in amplitude may, or percentage occurrence may be for geographic reasons, the locations, etc. But you see the vertical line almost in the middle there of the summer solstice. And there's a short run up and a long tail from behind. Now that showed promise. Oh, they were getting reflections at 50 megs, so maybe it could support 50 meg propagation. So let's look at that. There's his diagram again, just as a reminder. So we have the nearest control point at each side there at A and E, and the PMSE region between in those middle thousands of kilometres. Now, firstly, how does the signal travel? You can see the line going from A, B, C to E, etc., between the two stations. Deflection first in F1 layer of the ionosphere is what Vergasa proposes. This here is denoted A and E. And to reach B and D, he suggests it propagates without intermediate ground reflection. So he's calling it, well, a whispering gallery via PMSE at BCD. Now, whispering galleries in propagation are known on HF in the ionosphere, that's for sure, and have been known for some time, for some decades. So was he onto anything? So here's the geometry of his proposal for 1 and 2. Okay. This station signal goes to the nearest control point where it's deflected but not entirely to the ground, and it goes to the second control point, the second point, without an intermediate ground reflection. It does not hit the ground. So the distance from the station to the second point to B is around 3,000 kilometres maximum. Could be less than that, but he suggests that's the maximum distance. And you just flop that horizontally to see the situation at the opposite end of the path. So let's take a look at control point A. What would be deflecting 50 megs there? So here's an electron density of the F1 region and over the solar cycle, globally and over the solar cycle. So what sort of densities do you get? Now, in vertical incidence ionosons, the electron density is related to the first reflection, that is FO ordinary, as in F ordinary, at the F1 layer here. So this is what you get. If you're going to steer 50 megs towards the horizon but not to the horizon, you'd need frequencies which are around twice this or a bit higher. Now this is an interesting curve or set of curves. It's related to the sunspot number. You can see it's lower at lower sunspot numbers and considerably higher for solar maximum years. But the two humps are related to geomagnetic latitude and coincide with the equatorial ionospheric anomaly, the EIA, either side of the geomagnetic equator. So this is general behaviour of the F1 region. It's not terribly encouraging. So let's take a look at this nearest control point over Japan one summer. So there was an ionosonde to the north of Chiba, to the north of Higasa, at Wakanai. So I looked at what it would do, what the ionosonde would show us in terms of F1 reflectivity and thus electron density for one summer. And you can see the diurnal variation. Of course, it peaks during the middle of the day, as you would expect, and declines either side. But it doesn't reach the frequencies that would be required to deflect 50 megs. So that's a bit of a Now let's look at the same thing over North America one spring. So this is Wallops Island, which is on the east coast of the USA. And you get much the same awkward pattern, although the frequencies, the ionospheric penetration frequencies are higher. The long bars there simply indicate the variation that you get in the readings. So we get to a conclusion. Here are the primary points. Firstly, the propagation path fails at A and B. The F1 region electron density is too low to support deflection of 50 megs RF at the necessary angles, which are relatively small. 2, PMSE cannot support 50 megs. It is low density nanometer-sized ice crystal layers. That is, the ice crystals are nanometer-sized and they're small layers. While producing echoes on megawatt power 50 meg vertical radars, they can have little effect on 6 meter band amateur signals propagating at low angles. So if you look at it at a different angle, it's not going to propagate 50 megs. And you don't see PMSE on ionograms, which would be the telltale. So let's take a look at global sporadic E. Here is Northern Hemisphere summer for 2009. What happened over those summer months that year, which was 2009. This is in a publication at 2013. And I obtained these diagrams with permission of the lead author of the papers. So this is the occurrence rate of sporadic E. And it's shown, it shows a geographic spread and of course geomagnetic. It's controlled geomagnetically fairly obviously. You can see the sort of the blue line through the middle follows the geomagnetic equator. You don't find it in the southern hemisphere until the next summer comes around like this. And you get similar patterns, red splotches, yellow splotches in terms of occurrence. Now, why would those splotches occur? Well, that occurs because of atmospheric conditions at ionospheric heights. You get bubbles in the atmosphere, which drives the accumulation of ions, the metallic ions in the ionosphere at 90 to 100, around 100 kilometers in height, which is sporadic E. And of course, it produces these blotchy patterns, and you get these chaotic contacts. There's a lull over South Africa because of the South Atlantic anomaly in the Earth's magnetic field. So these measurements were made by satellite signal occultation, and this is the simple diagram. So a LEO satellite listening to a GPS signal on 1.5 gigs, the dense little clouds of sporadic E give a phase deflection of the signal. So, and it's very obviously picked. They're not sort of looking for weak signals, and it's an automated procedure, so it's very reliable. Now, I've discussed the gases hypothesis in Dubis. Many of you will probably know of Dubis, a German-based magazine, and I wrote about it in issue 4 for 2012 and subsequent issues. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Roger, thank you very much. Oh, we got a problem there. We've got a few technical gremlins, to be honest, tonight. We've got one computer that we normally get the questions from, completely failed. So, but I think we can get any questions from you. So, if you've been watching this and live on Wednesday night, and you've got any questions for Roger, I'm guessing not just about the theories and everything you've been talking about tonight, but maybe some other things about 6 meters. Please ask them now, either on BATC or on Facebook. Roger, I want to start by asking you, how long has 6 meters? Because I think there's a picture of you when you were 17, and even then you had a 6 meter transceiver there, or a transmitter. So have you always found this is your favourite band, the one you're most intrigued with?
Yes, simple.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Australia had 6 meters granted in the immediate post-war period. There were a couple of different bands. It was 56 megs, and then it was 50 megs. And then that was the lower 2 megs were withdrawn to allow an extra TV channel, because the planners for Australia's TV channels got it wrong and had 12 channels and needed 13. So they withdrew 50 to 52 megs. We got in the 1980s, we got dispensation to use a certain segment of the 50 to 50.1, 50.2, 50.15 outside of broadcast zones where channel 0, 45 to 52 meg TV stations were located. There was one in New South Wales and one in Queensland, but the whole of Australia had to adhere to that. And we got it back when Channel 0 in the 2000s, when Channel 0 closed, and we advocated to get use of the band again, but we only have secondary use of 50 to 52 until some other interest decides that they need to use 45 to 52.
Do you think that's a real possibility? I hadn't heard that. I mean, we know that some of the top bands have gone, the 1.3 gigs, or at least parts of it, are really under threat. But do you think that might happen?
Well, in now 13, 14 years, nothing's happened. No interests have come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
Hard to tell.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Okay, I've got a question for you. Tom GXQD asks, I'm guessing an amateur needs a beam to get a signal over these distances. What direction is it pointed? It seems counterintuitive, but does beaming over the South Pole from Australia work?
Short answer, no. It's a great circle path. If you want to work long distance sporadic E from Australia, it's a great circle path. To work South America, um, you point close to uh, south, depending on which side of the Australia you're on. Don't forget the 4,000 kilometres east west coast to coast. So South America's the state that you can work Argentina and you can work Chile and Peru, for example. And those directions are south, but they don't go over the pole uh, terribly closely. Put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, I noted in part of the talk you said that PMSE cannot support 50 megs unless it's extreme high power, like megawatts, I guess you're talking about, huge amounts of power.
Well, they're looking at it from underneath. They're not looking at it from a propagation point of view. So those radars point straight up, and they're looking at very weak signal returns. Whereas the propagation that we're looking for, coming sideways, is looking for free electrons. Whereas what the PMSE radars are concerned with is tiny ice crystals.
Yes. Yeah, I noted that on there. Another question, how long has this been a thing, and when was the first known intercontinental 50 megs contact? And do you know if it was a planned test or just a fantastic coincidence?
It was a coincidence, and it was in 1957, if I remember
Wow,
correctly.
1957. Oh, that's going
I know
back.
from Australia working USA, not a lot of countries had 50 megs
No.
back in the 50s. But from Australia, it was 1957, 58. So, solar cycle 19, which was a big one,
Yes.
but it only lasted 6 months. But that was a combination of F2 and sporadic E. Working Hawaii on sporadic E uh, became common, and was a summer month thing, or around the solstices.
Yeah. Well, I think, Roger, I don't think I've got any more questions left. You've certainly reinforced the nickname that the 6 meter band has, being a magic band. It is incredible what it does. It's a sort of sweet spot, isn't it? And it's sort of between HF and VHF, and it really, you've shown there, and I don't think I've seen a talk discussing the things that you have tonight before. So you've really shown that these things are, this is a very unique band, and I guess, do you spend most of your time on 6 meters yourself now?
Not these days, having retired. I'm in and my situation is in flux, shall we say.
Right.
A long-term plan was to move, retire and move to Queensland, and living with my son and his daughter. And he's on the hunt to buy a house. and we'll look at getting back on 6 meters from there. I've collapsed my my amateur band working to portable, and I've until recently I could work all bands up to 10 gigs. I had equipment for 6 meters right through to 10 gigs. And I've got less of that now. I can certainly do 6 to 70 centimeters, 23 centimeters, and 9 centimeters, 3 gigs. So and it's all portable. It's all configured for portable operation. But I have recently developed a simple vertical antenna on a PA speaker stand. So I can sort of put that out, and providing the wind isn't blowing too much, I can get on the air on 28 and 6.
Good. Well, and when you do settle with your son and you've moved, then I'm sure the aerials can all go back up again. Roger, thank you so much for tonight. It's a complex subject, but you delivered it really well, and we're very appreciative of you delivering it, and especially at what must be now, let me think, 20 minutes to...
It's 0540.
5:40, yes.
Yes.
So still just before 6 o'clock in the morning. Most of us wouldn't be up even then. For you to deliver a
Yes.
talk at this time of night is very sporting of you. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Roger.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There we are. That's Roger, VK2ZRH. Great to have him presenting to us, especially at such an unsociable hour, as they say. So that's almost it for NARC Live now. Just to let you know what's coming up this week at NARC. On Sunday, we've got at 7 o'clock, we've got the GB2RS News on GB3MB. Next Wednesday, we're here again, so it's not an alternate week. We're back here 1st of October for Hans Summers, G0UPL. He's the founder of QRP Labs. His famous kits. So if you've got one of his kits and you've ever wanted to ask him a question, this would be a perfect opportunity. And then in 2 weeks' time, we do meet back at the school, and it's a tabletop sale for all members. And then keep in touch with us, your pictures, your stories, and everything else. We love to hear them. And thank you for joining us tonight. So we'll see you next Wednesday. Until then, from Tammy.
Bye-bye.
And from me, David, G7URP. Take care of yourselves. Look after each other. Bye-bye.